The winning blueprint presents.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Welcome. You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me on this wonderful Tuesday afternoon. And I want to get to a lot of those coaching vacancies that we have, GMs as well, in the National Football League, as Black Monday left a lot of carnage in its wake. I mean, there was a lot of vacancies available in a lot of locations, 7 to be exact, as 7 coaches were fired. And the dominoes are starting to fall. Teams are being spurned by college coaches. Teams are finding their guys, zooming in on them, locking in on them, interviewing them multiple times, giving you the indication that, hey, this is a guy we really like. Maybe we just need to talk to him once more, twice more to figure out, is this in fact the right guy? Because just like selecting a quarterback of the future early in a draft, you need to find the right guy to run your franchise as a head coach. It's just as important as finding the right quarterback. You don't find the right coach, you could waste 2 or 3 or 4 seasons, depending on how long it takes you to admit that you made a mistake. Some teams are fooled into thinking that, hey, we might have the right guy. You might start off with a bang and then it tails off. Sort of like the Broncos with Josh McDaniels. He looked like the right guy initially. And then the bottom fell out of that thing faster than a bucket with a hole in it. So you got to find the right guy. It can set you back 2, 3, 4, even 5 seasons, depending on, again, how long you allow it to go on. So, yeah, it's a pretty big deal. And these teams are really taking their time. They're interviewing multiple coaches around the league, in the college ranks, and even in Canada as well. They're looking near and abroad and far to find their head coach. And I think that's the right thing to do. You want to find the right guy. And there's no timetable on finding the right head coach. This is a quality over quantity process. And so it may take you 10 guys to interview to find the right one. But at the end of the day, you need to find, or at least feel like you found the right guy. So we're going to talk about that today on this edition of In the Lab Room. So here's what we know thus far. There's been 2 vacancies filled. 1 in Kansas City, 1 in Buffalo. The other 5 still up in the air. There's a few GM spots open as well. None of them have been filled to this point. So let's talk about Kansas City first, because they're the first team to actually go out and hire a coach. And they feel like they've gotten their man. And their situation was a little sketchy at best. I feel like Andy Reid came in and he strong-armed him. He told him, look, I want to be your guy. I want to be the man in Kansas City. I want to help turn that franchise around. But I'm going to need my guys to do it. And so basically, Andy Reid came in and he turned into the front office manager, because he not only wanted to be the coach, but he wants to get his GM, he wants to get his player personnel in there, he wants to get all of his guys in there. He's trying to get the band back together. And so he's like, hey, I'll come and I'll be your head coach, but I need my guys too. I need my henchmen with me. And so the Chiefs went and said, hold on, don't hang up, hold on, I'll be right back. They got on the other line and they called up Scott Pioli and they said, hey, Scott, look, man, it's been nice, it's been fun, but you got to go. Can't get into specifics with you, but you got to go, man. You can't stay here anymore. So he had to leave. And they parted ways, Andy came in shortly thereafter, and so you kind of speculate that Andy Reid kind of gave him the strong arm. Look, this is what I need to have happen if you want me to be your coach. So he's in. He's probably going to fill that GM void himself. Andy Reid is probably going to get his guys in there, and he's going to fill that himself. He's going to probably fill it with Tom Heckert, the fired Browns former GM, and he's probably going to bring in John Dorsey, who currently is in Green Bay as the director of football operations. He's probably going to bring him in to probably the same title out in Kansas City, and they're going to look to change this franchise. But I tell you what, there's already a lot of talent there, so I don't know if there's a lot that needs to be done, but the Chiefs have their man. They have Andy Reid. He's going to bring in his guys, and they're going to change that front office and really try to change what the Kansas City Chiefs look like as far as a product on the field is concerned. And I think that they have the pieces in which to do so, and now they have the direction that they lacked over the last 2, maybe 3 seasons. So the Kansas City Chiefs have filled their vacancies, or at least one of them, looking to fill the rest of them later on in the week. You look at Buffalo, they just went up the street. Orchard Park is here. They just went up the street to Syracuse, and they hired the Syracuse football coach, Doug Marrone, and made him their new head coach. And so I was a little impressed by him in his press conference, him coming in, and I don't know if he's the right guy or not. Guys can talk. This isn't politics. Talking isn't going to win you football games, but it always helps. It always helps when you can go out and clearly state your message and get your agenda pushed across to the rest of your team. And so maybe he's the guy for the job. Sometimes you got to look outside of the box. You got to think outside of the box. And I thought this was an outside of the box hiring for the Bills. Who had Doug Marrone on their radar? Not many teams. And so this could be the right hiring. It's always good when you can find someone in your own backyard and make them your guy. They probably have intimate knowledge of what Doug Marrone has been doing at Syracuse. And he's got that Syracuse program playing better of late. That was a lifeless Syracuse program, especially coming from the prominent program that they were back in the 60s, 50s, and even into the 70s. So they've fallen on hard times in Syracuse. Doug Marrone was helping turn that program around, and so he gets a shot to be the head coach in Buffalo. We'll see what he's able to do as he takes over for Chan Gailey. So those are the 2 jobs that we know have been filled. Now let's talk about the 5 vacancies that remain and what these teams are looking to do, who they're bringing in, and figure out if we've got some type of handle on what these teams are looking to do here in the near future. So out in Arizona, which is where I want to start with all the teams that have vacancies, they have a GM and a head coaching vacancy. First things first, the Cardinals, they didn't really know what they wanted to do. They didn't know if they wanted to hire a GM first or did they want to hire the head coach first. I'm always in the thinking of you want to hire your GM first because you can find a coach. Coaches will coach. There's some coaches that have been around the block long enough and they feel like, hey, if you want me, I need my guys. Like Andy Reid basically did in Kansas City. There's guys around the league that feel that way. I've been around long enough. I've earned the right to be able to pick my GM. And so if you are looking for a coach like that, then you need to go get that coach first and let him pick his GM. But if you're not necessarily looking for a coach like that with some kind of background and pedigree, if you're just looking for a coach, then the first thing you need to do is get a GM if you don't have a GM and you don't have a head coach. Because GMs are very particular. And again, GMs are like coaches. They're going to be GMs. You get a GM, he's going to be your general manager. He's going to run your franchise. He's going to help you with personnel decisions. He's going to help you balance that checkbook in terms of salary cap. He's going to do all of the things that you need your GM to help you do to make your franchise a competitive franchise. But it always works better if the GM and the head coach are on the same page. You don't want to have an adversarial relationship between your GM and your head coach. And the easiest way to do that is to get the head coach first and then get the GM. Because at the end of the day, everyone wants a job. And when teams stop beating your door down, looking for you to be their head coach, looking for you to be their GM, and someone comes knocking, you'll take it. And so you might not necessarily agree with the guy that they got in place as the GM, but at this point, do you have many options to be a head coach again? No. So you'll take the job, you'll bite your tongue, and you'll have to find a way to work with the GM, but it might not be the most ideal situation. Or vice versa. You might not be getting many offers to become a GM again. You might have got one shot, it didn't go the way you wanted. You said if you ever got another shot, it'd be different. You do this, you do that. And now a team comes calling, they already got a head coach. And you might not like that head coach and his philosophies and the things that he believes in, but you don't have many more opportunities coming your way, so you take the job. That could be a recipe for disaster. So I'm always in the school of thought of, hey, get the GM first, then you get the head coach. And the Cardinals, they followed that blueprint. They kept it in-house by promoting Steve Keim to general manager. He's going to take over as the general manager for the Arizona Cardinals. He was the vice president of player personnel, and so now he's going to assume a different role, a more powerful role as the GM, and he's going to have some decisions to make. And the first big one is to help find this coach. He's going to have to help with this coaching search. And right now the Cardinals are looking at numerous coaching candidates on their short list right now of guys that they want to talk to. Todd Haley, their former offensive coordinator, he's now in Pittsburgh as their offensive coordinator. Ray Horton, their defensive coordinator, who right now is a hot commodity. A lot of teams have been interviewing Ray Horton. And if you're the Cardinals, you have a guy that understands this franchise, knows what this franchise needs. He's an intimate participant in these discussions. You need to seriously consider Ray Horton as one of your coaching candidates, because this defense for Arizona, look, the offense was anemic. And again, we always talk about quarterbacks and not having one and not having a chance. That was the story for the 2012 Arizona Cardinals. They didn't have a quarterback. When you have a lot of nothing, you have nothing. Nothing plus nothing plus nothing equals nothing. And that's what the Cardinals had at quarterback. Nothing plus nothing plus nothing equals nothing. And so their offense suffered because of it. Their offense was nothing. Nothing plus nothing equals nothing. And that's what the offense was. Because Kevin Kolb plus John Skelton plus Ryan Lindley equals nothing on offense. So offensively, they were challenged. That's being nice. Defensively, however, they got it done. They were a solid defense. And the reason they were solid, or one of the big reasons, Ray Horton. And so if you're Arizona, you have to seriously consider him for that job. Also, they've been talking about interviewing and possibly talking to Jay Gruden, the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati. And so they've got several coaches that they have on their short list, but they got their GM. That's the first part of that equation. That's probably your hardest part. You made that decision. Now you got to find a head coach. And I think that the Cardinals will be making that decision here short. Probably of all the teams looking for a head coach, the Browns find themselves probably in the toughest situation because they thought they had their man in Chip Kelly. They were spurned by him. He went back to Oregon. They wanted to talk to Bill O'Brien, the coach of Penn State. He assured Penn State, I'm not going anywhere. He's not even talking to any more NFL teams. So right there, one of, maybe the top two candidates. I don't know what their board looks like in terms of coaches and the guys that they wanted to talk to. But two coaches that you wanted to talk to, gone. And so now you have to start going to plans B, C, D, E, F, and G. And so the Browns have a lot of guys that they want to talk to. They want to talk to Bruce Arians, the Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator. They want to talk to Ray Horton, the Arizona Cardinals defensive coordinator. They want to talk to Ken Wisenhunt, the ex-Arizona Cardinals head coach. So a lot of moving parts there. Honestly, there are several teams on this list that don't know what they want to do. And the Browns are one of them. they really don't have a clue as to what they want to do, because I think they started to put a lot of their eggs in that Chip Kelly basket. And Chip picked up the basket and said, I'll get back to you. I just need to eat a few more of these eggs, and I'll let you know what I feel like. And he ate it as he was wiping his mouth with some chocolate on it. And he never came back with their basket. He just sat at home. He ate all of the chocolate eggs out of the basket and then called them up and said, you know what? That was really thoughtful of you guys, but I think I'm going to have to pass and go back to Oregon. And so the Browns are really left high and dry at that point. Now they have to start looking at other options. And this is a really fluid situation because they don't have a GM either. And there's new management. And so you got to feel like if you're going to come into that situation that you need to know what's going on. There needs to be some kind of pecking order. There needs to be some sort of stability. And I don't know if the Browns can provide that for you at this moment because they don't know who their GM is. They don't know who their head coach is. And there's a lot of talent on this roster. So I tell you what, whoever the head coach is, and I think that they need to have a strong personality at the head coaching position. They don't need to bring in some guy that's going to be passive. They need to bring in a coach with some kind of backbone that's going to be hard because they got a young team. They got a young roster. They need to be able to get through to these guys and let them know that, hey, I'm here, I'm in charge, and this is the direction that we're going in. Here's another team that really has no idea what they want to do. The Chicago Bears. They're clueless in all of this. They're interviewing everyone under the sun. They have absolutely no idea what direction they want to go in. And if you're the Bears, I don't understand what you're doing here because you're a veteran-laden team. You don't need to go get some coordinator or some guy that's never been a head coach. You should have been sifting through that pool of coaches that was just recently fired. The Ken Wisenhunts, the Andy Reids. You should have been trying to get first dibs on that whole pool of coaches that were just fired because you got a veteran team. They don't want some 36-year-old, some 39-year-old coming in there barking orders, and he's never done anything. They need a guy that you can put in front of them and immediately have the respect of that whole locker room. Now, I don't know of many guys out there like that, but if you're the Bears, that's who you should be trying to talk to first. But the Bears, they're talking to everyone. They're talking to a couple of special team coaches. Dave Tube, who is their own special teams coach. He's their special teams coordinator. They also were talking to Joe DeCamillis. That's the Cowboys special teams coordinator. They've reached out and put some feelers out there for Mike Singletary. He's in Minnesota as an assistant. They've also inquired about Bruce Arians, the Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator. So they've even reached out to Canada to try to talk to Mark Tresman, the Montreal Alouettes head coach. And so the Bears don't know what they want to do right now. They're just really going through the motions, and I don't know if they even have their eye specifically on one candidate. Someone needs to just go into an interview, it seems like, and just wow the Bears right now. They don't know what to expect from their candidates, and they're looking for someone to come in prepared, wow them with a sense of direction of where he wants to take this team, and maybe it'll be his job. But right now, the Bears, much like the Browns, I don't think they know where they want to go. The Bears don't have a GM vacancy, so at least they have that situation squared away. But I don't know if they know who the next head coach is going to be in Chicago. Much like the Chicago Bears, I feel like the Philadelphia Eagles should be sifting through coaches who are just fired or guys who have experience because they have a veteran team, a lot of players that they're not here to rebuild anything. They want to start fast and they want to just, from the first day, go 100 miles an hour. And it's hard to do that with a guy that's never been a head coach before because he's learning the nuances of the position of being a head coach. He's learning to not just be a coordinator and just be in control of one side of the football. He's learning how to be in control of a whole team. He needs to have his hand in the cookie jar on offense, defense, and special teams. He needs to have the pulse of his team. And so when you get a guy that's never done that before, there's a transitional period. And when you have a veteran team, hard to sell your team on the fact that, hey, this guy is going to take us where we want to go now. Because when you get a guy like that, there needs to be margin for error. That first season might not be what you thought it was going to be. Some guys hit the ground running. They take off and they go 10-6 in their first season. Great for them. But for others, their first season is 5-11. That first season is 6-10. Because they were just sticking their toe in the water. It was cold. They just stuck their toe in the water. And they just finally got the gumption. And they just finally built up enough nerves to actually go and put their feet in the water. So by that second season, they should be jumping in, whole body, all the way in. And so the Eagles, they don't have time for that. Neither do the Bears. They're not getting any younger. There are a lot of veterans on these rosters, and so they need to find a coach that suits that roster. And so the Bears are looking to talk to Lovie Smith. They're looking to talk to Ken Whisenhunt, which I think are all good moves. They also want to talk to Bruce Arians. I wouldn't be opposed to that because I feel like Bruce Arians really was a head coach this season. He wasn't technically the head coach. He was the interim head coach while Chuck Pagano was away. He was still the offensive coordinator. But to me, he was the head coach. He was the guy that everyone looked to as the leader of that franchise. So I feel like Bruce Arians has that experience that you're looking for. So I wouldn't discount him. I think he's a good hire as well. And that's why I think a lot of teams are looking to talk to Bruce Arians because he did a phenomenal job with a very young team. They went 11-5, and I don't think that that team is overly talented. And he still was able to squeeze a bucket and a half worth of water out of a dry rag. And so I think that's why Bruce Arians is so high on everyone's list. But the Eagles don't think they really know what they want to do, but I think they have a direction. And I think that direction is someone who's done this before. That's why you don't hear about a lot of coordinators or a lot of guys who don't have head coaching experience being linked to the Eagles, because I think they're looking in the direction of a coach that's done it before. And I think that's a smart move for the Philadelphia Eagles. Last but not least, the San Diego Chargers are going about it the right way. They're methodical in their approach. And I think that the Chargers are much like the Eagles and the Bears, except I don't feel like they have as much talent. But they have a veteran-laden team. They have a veteran quarterback, a veteran tight end, veterans all along that defense. Now, if they want to blow this thing up and start anew, fine. If you're going to do that, then the whole pool should be open to you in terms of candidates. If you're looking to win with the roster that you have now, you just want to add several pieces to make them better, then you need to get a veteran head coach. You need to be talking to the Ken Whisenhunts, the Lovie Smiths of the world. You need to be talking to guys who have done this. Throw Bruce Arians in there if you like. But if you're going to blow this thing up, which I think needs to be done in San Diego, then everyone should be open, even the coaches who have done it before to the ones that are looking to get their first crack at being a head coach. The Ray Hortons of the world, the Jay Grudens, guys that just want to get their foot in the door. Bruce Arians. Those guys deserve a shot if you're going to blow this thing up and start anew. But the Chargers are going about it the right way. I like what the Chargers have said, and I like their approach. We want our GM first. That makes the most sense to me. Get your GM, have him be in on the hunt in the search for your head coach. Have those two really be on the same page. Get your coach. He needs to be sitting right there when you start doing interviews, and they got to work together. That needs to be a harmonious relationship. And so you need your GM and your coach on the same page, and the easiest way to do that is to get the GM first. Then get your head coach. And right now, the front runner for that GM position looks like Tom Telesco for the Chargers. We thought Chip Kelly was going to be the Browns head coach. You thought Andy Reid was going elsewhere, so you just don't know. We thought Andy Reid was going to Arizona. So these things look like all but assured to be a done deal, and then they fall apart. So nothing's etched in stone, but Tom Telesco looks like he's going to be the GM in San Diego. But we don't know. We don't know. We could wake up tomorrow and Morocco Brown is the GM in San Diego. Who knows what's going on anywhere. But I think the Chargers have the right approach. And I think that getting your GM will open up avenues in terms of what you want to do as far as getting a head coach. And I think the Chargers have the right approach, and they'll find their head coach here shortly. So those are all your coaching vacancies. Now, on the front of coaches that could be fired, may not be fired, Ron Rivera was assured on Tuesday, you're not going to be fired. Phew, that was a sigh of relief by Ron Rivera because he could have easily been canned. I thought that the end of the regular season, them winning 4 straight to end the season, saved his job. I said that then as the season came to a close. I'm saying it again now, and it proved to be true. I don't know if they lose 2 out of their last 4 games. I don't know if they split those last 2 and they finish up the season 5-11, if he has a job or not. But I tell you one thing, it didn't hurt to win 4 straight to finish the season. I tell you that much. And I think that saved his job because it gave the Panthers reassurance that maybe this guy can get it done, and he definitely didn't lose this team. So Ron Rivera will be the coach for the Panthers to begin the 2013 season. Don't know how long he will remain there. That remains to be seen, but he will be the coach going into next season. Same could be said for Mike Munchak. Same can be said for Rex Ryan. Guys are holding on to their jobs. And for the most part, if you make it past Black Monday, that's usually a good sign for you. Because if a team's going to fire you, they want to do it as soon as possible. Because there's a lot of candidates out there that they would love to talk to. And the longer you wait, the less likely it is you're going to get your man. Because a lot of times, a lot of these teams are jockeying for the same coaches. 3-4 teams like the same guy. And so you need to throw your name in the hat so they know that that job is available. And you need to be able to talk to them as soon as possible because it's much like free agency. If you get a guy in your building first, he might not leave. He might be your coach. You might be so impressed and enamored with him, and he might feel the same way. It might be a mutual feeling. You might have your head coach, and he might have had 2 or 3 interviews lined up. But you two were so in sync and had some of the same ideas and views for this team moving forward that he didn't have to leave. This is where he wants to be. And so you got to throw your name in the hat as soon as possible. And I think that if you are not fired on Black Monday, then your chances of being retained go up tremendously. Because on Black Monday, it's a 50-50 proposition if you're on the fence. You're waiting for that phone call. Hey, need you to come down to the office. Or hey, need you and your GM to come on down. You're waiting for that phone call. If it doesn't come on Monday, you feel good. You feel real good. And if you get past Monday, the chances go from 50% to you being retained to about 70 to 75, closer to 80%. And at that point, you kind of exhale. You're not out of the woods yet, but you exhale a little bit because you know I dodged a bullet. And that's going to do it for this episode. That's a touchdown. Throw it up. I'm going to tack on this quick extra point. I know I talked about this in the extra point yesterday. I just want to put a bow on it, and we'll move on. Robert Griffin III injury. It's been confirmed. He tore his ACL. He tore his LCL. I had no doubts about that. And look, that's a catch-22 position that Mike Shanahan was in. A lot of you out there are talking about how dumb he was and how he's putting the franchise at risk and yada, yada, yada. Look, at the end of the day, Robert Griffin III and Mike Shanahan were both, to me, in the right. And it's up for interpretation. You can have your view on it, but you can't be on both sides of the fence on this thing. And that's what probably makes me the most angry when listening to fans chime in on what's going on in this whole situation with Robert Griffin III, Mike Shanahan. Should he, shouldn't he have played or not? Look, we're so sensationalized in our society with our opinions. And it's so funny to me because just 2 years ago, these same people that were saying Mike Shanahan was an idiot and that he was costing the franchise, putting them at risk and putting Robert Griffin III at risk and calling Robert Griffin III all kinds of names and saying that he was selfish and putting himself before the team. These are the same people that just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, was crucifying Jay Cutler for coming out of the championship game against the Packers. Oh, he's soft. You don't come out. These are the same people that were crucifying Jay Cutler. And if you remember correctly, I remember it vividly, guys were calling out Jay Cutler on Twitter. Other players around the league. Now, it did come out later that he had a significant injury. But no one cares. It's the playoffs. If you can play, if you can walk, you play. And so, I don't want to hear about anyone talking about this was the wrong decision that Mike Shanahan and Robert Griffin III made. That's what you do. You're a football player. You play. If you can play, you play. You don't think about next year. Nothing's promised to you next year. The Redskins can be bad with a healthy Robert Griffin III for the next 6 seasons. So, you don't want to hear about next year or 7 years down the road. This year counts. You made it to the playoffs this season. There's no guarantee you get back to the postseason. So you got to play it like it's your last play. You got to coach it like it's your last game. There's no guarantee for the future. This team could be bad for the next 6 seasons. You don't know what's going to occur. The Redskins didn't know that they were going to be docked millions upon millions of dollars by the league because the league was in cahoots with the league office and they conspired to commit collusion on the part of the league, and they decided to fine the Redskins and the Cowboys and a little bit of the Raiders because they didn't want to go along with that collusion in that uncapped season. The Redskins didn't see that coming. They were blindsided by that. That's a huge amount of cap space that they lost. You didn't foresee that coming. You couldn't have foreshadowed that, but it happened. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, so you play each game, you play each play like it's your last. That's what those two did, and there's no turning back from that. There's no second guessing that. They made the right decision, and for those of you who think that they didn't, you are entitled to your opinion. I'll be the first, if not the last, to tell you you're wrong. And that'll do it for this program. Thank you for joining me in the lab room. Continue to stay tuned for the lab follow-ups as today the Jacksonville Jaguars will be up. I'll be talking about the Jaguars, the 2012 season, what they need to do moving forward to become a better franchise because right now they're one of the worst teams in the National Football League. So we'll talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars on the lab follow-up, so stay tuned for that. You know the ways to contact the show. There's Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Follow me on Facebook. Like that page. I'm on Twitter. @In the Lab Room is the Twitter handle. Follow me on Twitter. There's YouTube. Louis T is the page. LOUIETEE. Louis T is the page. Subscribe to it. You have every video at your fingertips. You'll be able to post messages at the bottom of the pages and the videos, and they'll come straight to the inbox. Speaking of the inbox, in the lab room @gmail.com is the inbox. If you subscribe, you leave a message on any one of those pages, any one of those social media sites, it'll come straight to the email. But if you want to just drop something in the inbox directly, that's the way to do it. And so I thank you for joining me on the program. Hope to see you back here tomorrow. Same time, same place, and as always, enjoy yourself. Take care of yourself. Want to see you back here tomorrow. Have a good one.